what opportunities exist into this niche that are not present in maybe some of the other niches. So how do you see it differently than the other ones?
Again, asking the bigger questions of what do I like? How do I up level? How do I continue to grow? How do I share more of myself within this industry that I loved? And that's how I ended up founding Abstract Commercial Real Estate and opened the doors in April of 2020. So it opened with a bang. And always talk to people what they like and what they dislike, because you may not have the same interests and desires as them.
What's your favorite book that influenced your mindset?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. And that's where it's really important to work with a broker in the niche, because
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bigger Life Podcast, where we again deep dive into journeys of commercial real estate and other aspects of real estate. Today we got another awesome guest, Heather, founder and CEO of Abstract Commercial Real Estate. Heather brings over $150 million in development leasing experience and excels at blending hyperlocal neighborhood insights. And she is a great resource to help us on the commercial brokerage and investment side of things. Hey, Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Ray. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. Well, first of all, let's begin with, so how did you get into commercial real estate? It's so niche, right? So you get into real estate, but commercial is its own animal.
Definitely. It's one of those, especially in smaller markets or tertiary markets like we are here in Madison, that you know who's doing deals and who isn't. But as we back up, I got into it in a very unique way. I had went to college for the thing you should do, and I spent 11 years in operations, just didn't like it. I ended up having a life-altering car accident, which really set my life off on a different trajectory. So I started asking the early questions of who am I, what am I? And over several years of entrepreneurship, I tried different things. And then someone said, Heather, you need to meet my friend. They're a commercial real estate broker. And that's what opened the door.
Awesome. And then you founded your own company. So what was the thought or motivation around that?
Certainly. So at that time, I had spent 5 years in commercial, and my niche has been and is retail and restaurants, with an emphasis with mixed use developments. And it was one of those that I had learned the basics, really had those solid. And what was fascinating was that in 2019, I ran the New York Marathon, hadn't ran one in 17 years, and it really stretched me. It really started me to asking the bigger questions of what do I like? How do I up level? How do I continue to grow? How do I share more of myself within this industry that I loved? And that's how I ended up founding Abstract Commercial Real Estate and opened the doors in April of 2020. So it opened with a bang.
Kudos to you running that marathon.
Yes, they change you.
Definitely anything that you do that is personal to you, but it brings a lot of changes on the way you think about things, the way you perceive it. Again, within commercial, you are doing very hyper specific niche, which is this mixed use development, retail, and so let's talk about that. So there are so many different niches, right, within commercial. But why this, or how do you see from an investment standpoint, like for the investors, what opportunities exist into this niche that are not present in maybe some of the other niches? So how do you see it differently than the other ones?
Definitely. So what's interesting is I've said that both from an investment standpoint and also for the brokers working in the different niches, part of it is personality. Right? What drew me to it was that I've always loved shopping and I always loved eating. But one of the nice aspects for an investor is that they're long-term leases, typically 10 years or longer. Of course, you have renewals, you have escalation bumps, varying degrees of TI, abated rent, all the little innuendos. And that's where it's really important to work with a broker in the niche, because the triple net lease that's going to be executed is very different from someone that knows the ins and outs to someone that might be an office or an industrial broker that's highlighting in the area. So that is a very crucial differentiator for your guests. With it, the other advantage is when you're in the right location, mixed use does extremely well. And that's where, when working with developers to lease out the commercial at grade, it's also defining some of the different construction points, window heights, ceiling heights, right? Floor to deck, parking, all of these different amenities, the amount of sunshine and exposure on patios. You also have to consider, where is the trash and recycling, because sometimes what has happened to developers that aren't quite as savvy or don't have that assistance is they'll have the garbage where your restaurant is dragging it out through the center of the development, and that's just not attractive, especially greases, oils. So it's the big pieces, but it's also a lot of those little minutia details that really are integral. And I think people either know restaurants and retail or they don't, and that's where it can get a bad rap when you have someone brokering the deals that isn't well aware or experienced.
But in general, retail is under stress because of e-commerce and all this online shopping with Amazon and various other things, doorstep delivery, even big box stores like Walmart's and some of the established companies who have really solid balance sheets, they kind of closing some of their stores. And we hear it in the papers or in the news all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see that creating an impact into your area, or retail being that niche, like as a specialized from investors, again, from an investment standpoint?
Well, if you think about it, in the Madison market, retail continues to increase. So our vacancy is decreasing, occupancy increasing. Our rents have stayed high. So a lot of it depends on where you're at within the country. Also, it really depends on what has been brokered for your triple net leases, because that's either going to make it worth your time to invest in or not, in addition to the expenses. And that's where some people understand it and some don't. So you can have two properties side by side with very different types of returns.
Absolutely. No, so every project is different. So what kind of returns do you see into the Madison market right now?
For retail, it's in that 6 range for a cap rate.
6 cap.
Office, others are higher than that, but that's what we're seeing in the Madison market.
And if a lot of my viewers are like beginning investors, and they are like, so what kind of pockets do they need to have to invest into some of the projects that you are entertaining or you're brokering?
A large part of it is just really determining what's in your box. What do you want? An asset that is ready to go? Do you want a value add? With the right brokerage, a value add is a great blessing. So I think it's one, understanding your temperament, what you want, and when you're looking to get returns. So that's first and foremost. And then I think from that, it's really digging into the leases. Leases vary so much. It has shocked me, and you'll see this especially with smaller operators that maybe only own 1, 2, or 3 properties. I mean, I've seen them where the escalator for an annual basis was $50. You think of the hundreds of thousands that they have lost over the life of that investment. It's one of those that makes you sick, because it's so simple, but you don't know what you don't know. So I think it's really important to work with brokers that understand the arena, because it all rolls up into your investment along with the expenses.
Absolutely. Brokers are fiduciary, and you need to have the right team in place before you start investing. And one should be talking to the right kind of people in the area that you are trying to invest, both in the asset class as well as geographically location. So that definitely makes sense.
And that's also where, too, in establishing those relationships, that's also how you get the phone call when I come across something that isn't listed. It's because of fostering those relationships. And that's something that really needs to be understood, is relationships matter, especially in this arena. There's more AI coming out. There's more competition, and the relationships puts you at the head of the pack. That's how I've been able to broker deals for my clients to buy property that would not be sold to other buyers. right? We beat out 4 because of my relationship. So brokers worth their salt have those relationships. They also have the relationships with contractors and a true team that whether you're rezoning, whether you're raising, building up, all those different facets that you have those contacts and they will pick up your call versus, gosh, I reached out, but it's been a week. It's been 2 weeks. So again, I can't stress the importance of relationships and playing well in the sandbox.
Yeah, the brokers are into the middle of your investment circle, right? Because they are people who have, as you rightly said, have contacts with the every team. Because you kind of sit in the middle of every deal, right? Be it financing, to be it zoning, or whatever.
Right. And that's where when I started, I didn't have a book of contacts. So I created mine from scratch. And the way you create and maintain is delivering, providing value, and following up. Because as you help people win, they are going to want to help you win. It's a relationship that's really special, and that's where too you really get to know someone because you understand their financials, the good, the bad, the ugly. But in having those candid conversations, you can best position them to win, and that's what I love doing.
Let's talk any project that you have completed recently or have brokered. Can you walk through some of specific numbers from investing perspective?
And so I don't share the specific numbers just because each deal is confidential. But what I would say is everything that I have for sale right now is under contract. And it goes from the small local investors up to the big national developers that are expanding throughout the nation. So the elements are the same. It's just really understanding the deal points and also knowing how far you can push. And I believe firmly at the end of the day, you always want to create a deal that is a win for both. Of course, where you're both giving up some and you've got that tension to a degree, but at the same time, you want both parties to walk away feeling that they got enough of what they needed, that they feel good, because down the road, there will potentially and most likely be another deal at some point.
Yep, makes sense. Is there overlooked detail in retail or restaurant brokerage that often gets missed, but definitely makes a big difference?
Definitely, especially with restaurants. So that's where, again, sun positioning, as silly as it might sound, sun studies are important, especially if you have an outdoor patio, a rooftop patio, of understanding. There's a lot of national operators that will pass on a location due to the sun exposure. Also, it's understanding what's distributed and not within HVAC, electrical. Sometimes also, is the sewer separated out or not? Is it all part of the bill? Are they separate bills? You'd be surprised when you get into some of these bigger mixed use developments where you're told that the utilities are separated. And sure enough, after one of the other tenants moves in, their build out is complete, that they're like, wow, I have this astronomical water bill. Well, it looks like it wasn't only theirs that was distributed. They were still connected to the co-tenant that was adjacent to them. It's really understanding also the venting. There's different types of venting. There's different clearances, also heights, getting approvals for the nano walls or garage doors early, understanding the ceiling heights, and that certain nationals will not go in within a certain Florida deck. They won't go in without a certain width of dimension. So there's just a lot of little idiosyncrasies, and especially if you're rezoning from retail to a restaurant operation, that's just a different capacity of electric, of HVAC. I brokered a deal last year where it was interesting. It was the first time this one had happened, where the client was going in on a second floor. They were a destination retail. The landlord, also a developer, was going to add 4 more stories on top. So we had to negotiate in advance that plan, also utilizing the current HVAC, so that when the new floors were added, that the new 20-ton HVAC unit was added on top, negotiating crane use, all of those different factors. So there's a lot that's done up front. And if you don't have the past experience to be able to follow it through, some of these other details, it can be hairy. And that's why I can't encourage people enough. Work with a broker in the niche. If you want to learn it, offer them the commission, but you get to be mentored in part of the deal. Just even seeing the flow of it, the different metrics, what's important, what's not, and why, you're going to learn so much.
Let's shift gears. So for the new people who are interested to become like a broker into this space, so how can they get into the commercial real estate? So of course they need a real estate license, but it kind of only starts from there, right?
So the way I did it is I ended up talking with 3 or 4 different brokerage firms. And the nice thing, it gave me an awareness of what was out there, the asset classes. Some were larger, some were smaller. So you get a feel on both because I think it's really important. Some people are going to like the big vertical, like the CBREs, the Colliers, JLL, and others are going to prefer a boutique feel. And that was me. In having that conversation, non-competes aren't what they used to be, but non-competes really tied you in, not only financially, but also for the time in between you quitting and starting something new. So again, those don't matter in the same amount, but understanding that. And then I think too of talking with someone that's seasoned to understand what questions you should be asking. Because again, you don't know what you don't know, and that is crucial in structuring your contract because you're locked in. And you know how it is. The best time to negotiate is before it's signed. And the way you could meet some of those people are through different trade events. I'm on the CCIM board. That's a great one. We have different events here in Wisconsin and nationally and worldwide that people can pay, attend, make some of these different connections. You can meet different brokers out in different events. We're out and about quite a bit. So those are some of the preliminary things. And then I think it's also understanding what you want and lining that up. And always, always talk to people what they like and what they dislike, because you may not have the same interests and desires as them.
Definitely. Within the commercial side, what's the most common commission structure?
A lot of times it's a 50%.
Wow, way different than residential.
Yeah, it's different in all different areas, but each state is unique.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yes.
In terms of trends, let's talk since you're on the CCIM board, and so let's talk about trends. So, how do you see the rest of 2025 now that it's kind of coming to an end, and commercial is much more long term? So, how do you see the trend shaping up in 2026 and 2027 and beyond?
Well, I think with AI, that's definitely going to flip the script in the sense of gathering data. Again, going back to those relationships, I think that's what's going to seal the deal for so many people now and forward. The reason for that, again, is the dollar volume. When you're working with these larger numbers, you really want to be able to have that human connection and make sure that nothing is being missed. And I think there's a smaller subset of people that will depend on AI only for something of that nature. And they're probably also younger in age, would be my anticipation for the most part. I think retail restaurants will continue to increase in volume and capacity. We did see through COVID, of course, the reduction in the floor plan size. One, to reduce overhead, and two, all of the personnel concerns of having people show up for work and things of that nature. So I do see a lot of the smaller footprints. I also see even greater convenience as time goes. You already hear about some of the robotics in the back of house at these different fast casuals. So I think people are going to want things more immediately. I think there's also going to be the higher dining. And I think AI will just help with all of the, if you want to say, items of lesser interest for people. I also think that there will be more international exposure back and forth. I think that there will be more local regional franchises popping up that as they figure, the formula out, that really does allow them to gain momentum and increase their returns as well. So I think with the big boys, I think it's one of those. It's going to be competitive, and I think you're going to see more closings, but then also more advancements. So the pressure is definitely on.
And where do you see interest rates? Of course, nobody can predict. It's $1 million question, but where do you see interest rates kind of heading, and the impact of that on the commercial side of things?
So I think interest rates, right, since the test of time, they're up and down, they're all around. I think what happens is, and this is something I've noticed over the past several years, is that a lot of investors, the statement of you have to pay to play, there's a lot of cash out there. Also, there's been a lot of seller financing, but also what I've noticed is that people are disregarding interest rates to get the property under contract. It doesn't matter if you see this great location. If it's not for sale, it's not for sale. So people are paying more to obtain the premium properties, irregardless what the interest rate is or the scenario. So I think, again, across time, you've seen people do that. And it's a differentiator for sure.
Sure. All righty, let's jump into next segment, which is the Quickfire Round. Okay, just fun facts.
Yes.
You'll like it. What's your favorite book that influenced your mindset?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Awesome. So what was the thing that changed it?
I think it's just really the control that you have over your life. It really sunk in at a different level for me. I'm a firm believer that we shape our destinies, and whatever happens in life, we always get to choose how we react and the plan that we put in place in action.
One piece of advice every investor or every agent should know?
Partner up with a solid broker in the niche with demonstrated experience. There's a lot of talk.
Call Heather.
Call Heather for retail restaurants. I'll refer you for anything else.
Absolutely. Dream city, where you want to go for vacation or from an investment standpoint?
Well, we're going to run the Tokyo Marathon, not next year, but the next, hopefully. So it's part of the Abbott World Major. So that's where my eyes are set.
Biggest mindset shift that changed your game, like how you were operating before and versus now?
I would say two. One was the car accident in my early 20s, that it really forced, or helped me, I should say, not forced, but helped me to think about what I truly want and to put that plan in place. And then I think too, the marathons, I'm on number 10 that I'm training for. That has solidified to me the power of vision, creating a plan, and consistency. It delivers.
So this is the 10th marathon? Awesome.
Yes.
I can only dream of one.
Yeah, that's great though. You know, what was funny is after my first, I swore them off for 17 years. Now I'm back.
What does bigger life mean to you? Now I'm biased. It's my show's name. So.
To me, I would say it's synonymous with living fully, that you're living beyond borders, and it's something that comes from the inside, that then you in our day-to-day life take the actions, the consistency, and the discipline to really be your best and to live at the fullest, and also to pave that path for others by passing it on.
Well, you pass a test. Well, Heather, thank you. Thank you for joining, and I appreciate it. This has been such an inspiring conversation. And for the folks who want to follow you, I know you have your own podcast called the CRE Rundown, right?
Right. So probably the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn, Heather Ewing, and it's EWING for people that don't remember the days of Dallas and Knots Landing. You can also visit our website, abstractcommercialrealestate.com. And Ray, thank you so much for having me. It was a true joy.
Well, thanks for joining again. Thank you. And for our folks, thank you for joining. We'll be back next week with another episode of Bigger Life Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.